look at this, you're running through a recorder. Oh, the booster does it. Oh. Cutting edge, mate. Cutting edge is giving you a wrap.
There's Erica. Did you come separately?
No, I dropped her off and parked the car, and I assumed she'd be in here.
I'm very sorry.
Oh. I couldn't see the name. Okay, where do you want to sit?
It's Rena. How are you? We just thrown down our lunch
Yep.
and I had a huge milkshake.
Oh.
So how's it going?
Good so far.
That's good.
Pretty much standing room only though, if you want to find a seat.
Sorry?
Pretty much standing room only at the moment, so
Thank you for coming. That's all right. All right. It's all right. I can always stand.
Sorry, of course you're going to lose the chair now. I'll find another one.
It's all right. I'll just sit over there.
Just want to go and find a chair. Grab a bar chair. You'll be more comfortable. So what everybody else is trying to Don't you start.
Hello, you.
You're not allowed to eat.
It's mine you've got to watch.
Well, we're going to go out this way. I'll show you.
okay.
Okay, so my start. Tom and Sullivan, I'll be calling you up. I've got the poem there.
There is some chairs on the outside, on the other side.
Get out of the way.
And a very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Just before we start, if you do have a mobile phone, would you kindly switch it to silent or preferably to off? It's quite muggy in here today, so if you're not feeling well, please raise your hand and one of my staff will look after you. God bless. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand as ready.
Well, good morning everyone, and thank you all so much for sharing this valuable time with the family to celebrate, mourn and farewell the amazing husband, father, grandfather and friend known as Peter Mote. This venue should give you a clue to Peter, as this is no ordinary chapel. This is no ordinary venue. As you all know, Peter was no ordinary chap. Even as you look at his full name of Peter John Fordham Mote, this is no ordinary name. It is full of elegance, heritage and excitement. But what's behind the name and this man? Let's peel back the pages of time and explore Peter's early life as written. So no need to authenticate the content, and here we go. So Peter was born on the 3rd of January 1944, and as Jane tells me the story, Peter and his mother were on their way to Coventry Hospital, but it was bombed, so they had to turn around and go back home. So Peter was born on the kitchen table. Correct? Correct. So there we are. But he was born in the spa town of Leamington in Warwickshire. He started work as an apprentice compositor at Northview Press when he was just 15 and earned the princely sum of 30 shillings a week, leading to a scholarship to Holland as Apprentice of the Year at Watford College of Technology, where he completed his Diploma of Graphic Arts. In the 1960s, he spent a few years in London to get his Bachelor of Science at London University, then on to the famous Clarendon Press and Macmillan's Publishing, the experience from which has stood him in good stead for the rest of his life. In September 1976, he applied for the job of Book Production Manager with Reader's Digest Australia after he was sent for his final interview in Sydney. Surprisingly, given the competition, he was offered the job. Now here I hesitate because as I read this, a smile went across my face. And the reason is that Peter, as you know, was a doyen of publishing. This man was the god of publishing. Yet, as I read this, there's a typo. But we fixed it. So there we are, Peter, I fixed it. Over the next 20 years, he rose through the ranks from manager of production to vice president of operations. He married his lovely Jane in 1990, and as she is the love of his life. In 1995, with Jane's help, he gained an MBA. In 1995, he was appointed production manager, production director Australia and New Zealand. In 1996, he was appointed vice president of operations of the Pacific. Wow. In 2000, he was sent to London to take up the position of Vice President of Books and Home Entertainment for Europe and the Americas, and Vice President of Reader's Digest Manufacturing. Dear Jane, bless her heart, packed up at their home, and we moved to Wimbledon in SW19, the postcode. In 2002, he was made Vice President of Promotion Operations with a global responsibility. This guy is amazing. It was his MBA that triggered this massive series of promotions. It was the key to the door in a rapidly evolving management era. They landed back in Gosford in good old Oz at the end of September 2003 and started a new life in Umina Beach, where we find ourselves today. He started in Rotary in 2005, God, a youngster, and having been president 4 times, I felt embarrassed because I've only been president 3 times, and assistant governor 3 times. That is the way of giving back a great experience. So there's the Peter Mote story as we know it. Peter also spent some time in the Royal Navy, and he left the Navy with the rank of lieutenant. So there you have it. No frills, no self-congratulations, no BS, as we sometimes like to say. This is the measure of the man we're here to celebrate, and celebrate we should, as Peter was a giant in the publishing industry, and who has not read Reader's Digest? A highly successful manager and a really decent human being who vehemently loved his family, his Rotary fellows, and living at Umina. His love was classical music, and our service is dotted with beautiful selections that Peter enjoyed. But as we travel through Peter's life, thanks to our tribute partners coming up soon. We must never forget that part of our being here today is to support Jane and Claire, Stuart, there's Jared, Jordan, there's Richard who's flown in from Munich, there's Wei and Alice, and as well as Helen who's now deceased. There's also Ruby, Lily and Rosie. We also want to say hello to Pat, Peter's first wife and mother to his children. Peter and Jane were always keen to include the whole family in any celebrations. We're here to explore this morning, so let's now introduce Martin King to share some verses with us. Thanks, Martin.
I'm not sure how you follow that. I've been asked to read a poem and say a few words. This is a poem that Peter had above his desk. And bear with me, I'm not the greatest poet in the world, so it'll come across as it does. What is this life if full of care? We have no time to stand and stare. No time to stand beneath the boughs and stare at love as sheep or cows. No time to see when woods we pass where squirrels hide their nuts in grass. No time to see in broad daylight streams full of stars like skies at night. No time to turn at beauty's glaze and watch her feet, how they can dance. No time to wait till her mouth can enrich that smile her eyes began. A poor life this if, full of care, we have no time to stand and stare. There's one other little poem. As we think of our continuing journey in this life, we promise never to forget you, and we will honour your memory by living our lives as you would want us to. And we will take the joy and pleasure you had in life and share it freely with others. Just to say an extra couple of words, we all met Peter in different ways and different times of life. Ours was when we bought the house next door, and one day we were renovating at the time, and there was one of the guys came in and he said, "Oh, there's this gentleman at the door." And I said, "Okay," so I went out, and there stood Peter with a bottle of champagne. So once the two dialects crossed, we realised we were both English. We drank the bottle of champagne. That led to regular drinks on the balcony, dinners out regularly, and we got to the stage where I ring Peter up because he was a great person and Jane as well. Just drop everything. So I used to ring up and he'd ring me and say, "Oh, do you want to go for dinner?" And go, "Oh yeah, well, you know, it's 5 o'clock, I better talk to Jane." So he'd turn around and you could hear the voices in the background, and Jane would be saying, "Well, I've just put a roast on or something in the oven," and Peter said, "Well, that's all right, turn the oven off, we'll go out." And that was quite I can't remember them ever turning me down or us turning them down. So we sort of got on pretty well considering we both came from the same areas but different walks of life, and we had many an evening with drinks and etc. There was in 22, most of you would know that Jane and Peter came back from holidays and were flooded. And at the time they moved into one of the flats in Diggers, which was quite tiny. So again, we were having a afternoon tipple and having a ground floor apartment, we suggested they moved in. So anyway, they both moved in, and meanwhile we sort of helped sort out the flooding, etc. And I think Peter and I were both the same minds. We were both dubious how we were going to go, because we know each other socially, but we're going to live in the same house. So we both sort of avoided each other for the first couple of weeks. And then after that, it went back, and we went back to the same thing as usual, going out for dinner, drinks, etc. And they were there for 6 months, 9 months. So, hence we became very close. So I'm going to leave it there, but there's one thing I'd like to say is that Peter, if I can get this out, Peter was my neighbour. He was my older brother. And he was my friend.
Thank you. Mark, do you want some water? Yes, please, sir. Thank you, Martin. It is hard. It is tough when you're talking about someone you really, really, really like as a friend and neighbours. Thank you so much. So we now come to tributes. And we have a video message from Bill Toohey in the United States, who was Peter's boss at the time. So with your permission, we'll run that message from Bill Toohey.
Hello, my name is Bill Toohey. Jane asked me to say a few words about Peter. I first met Peter when my role was the Managing Director for Reader's Digest Australia and New Zealand. This was a new role for me, and I had a lot to learn. It's never easy to say goodbye to someone who has been a part of our lives. When that person is gone, there's a hole where he used to be in our life. That's what many of us are likely feeling now. At such a difficult time, it's important to remember the good memories we all have of Peter. By holding on to these memories, we can focus on the good times we had together and help each other find comfort in this time of mourning. At Reader's Digest, Peter oversaw production. He was doing an outstanding job. He managed suppliers, negotiated great contracts for the company, and ensured that materials and products were delivered on time. Peter was a great people person. He listened well and made friends and business alliances with ease. One of my tasks was being responsible for a planned refurbishment of the Reader's Digest building in Surrey Hills. Over my first few months, I saw a total cost of the refurbishment increase monthly by a few $1 million. I quickly saw an opportunity to get this under control from a cost point of view. I asked Peter to take on this responsibility, which he happily did. Not only did he take it on, but he also found ways of reducing the cost and came up with a brilliant solution to cut 1.5 years off the total refurbishment time frame. He recommended moving the entire company to a building in the CBD of Sydney. A terrific idea which no doubt kept our operation efficient by not being distracted day by day with the refurbishment activities. He achieved both the accelerated time frame and saved us a significant amount of money. Our customer service department was having a tough time keeping current with customer communications. Peter seemed like a natural to take on this troubled area. Once again, he led the charge and got us back on track. These successes, along with others, led him to becoming a director at Reader's Digest. He was a very important part of my management team, and I appreciated his counsel, enthusiasm, and his can-do attitude. When my time at RDANZ was completed, I returned to Reader's Digest head office. Peter and I stayed in contact over the years. He loved to talk and enjoyed discussing what he was doing in later years. We exchanged greetings on U.S. and Australian holidays. Peter had a great sense of humor, and his observation on life were always interesting. He loved his motor cars, and he liked the fast ones, like his Mini Cooper, John Cooper Works version. A rocket ship, indeed. Peter and Jane visited my wife Kathy and me in the U.S., and we stayed with them on one of our return trips to Australia. It's wonderful to stay in touch with such great friends. It's hard to say goodbye to someone who's had a big impact on our lives. It's always hard to lose someone you know, to let them go and move on. But if we keep those good memories in our hearts and minds, we can find comfort, and Peter will always be with us. I know that Jane will miss Peter dearly. She was always the lady behind the man. We wish Jane, Peter, and Jane's family and friends strength to see them through this very sad time. Thank you.
Very well presented, so that was lovely. So now, Michael Collette, you're an old friend from the UK. Where are you, Michael? Ah, right here. And so splendidly dressed too, but do you have red socks?
You ought to talk. No, I don't have
I
red
don't.
socks.
No, I haven't got red socks
I
either.
drew the line at red socks.
I was tempted to ask who those who are wearing red socks to show us. Well, there's a few. Yep, well done. Okay, over to you.
Hello, everyone. G'day, old mate. And a hello to Wei Wei and Alice on the other side of the globe. 3 days before Peter left us, and after an hour spent together, which was patently difficult for him, Peter clutched my arm and me his, and we both understood the significance. In a reserved and masculine way, the gesture placed a finishing point, at least for the time being, on what was a wonderful friendship. Peter and I have been friends for 20 years, guided into one another's orbits by secondments to London and the organising efforts of our wives, Jane and Robin. I'm sure 2 decades is probably nowhere near some of the friendships that are here today. But notwithstanding, my friendship with Peter ranks amongst some of my most prized possessions. His friendship is irreplaceable, and because of the qualities that define it and him. Peter was an intelligent man with a confident, self-assured and corporate bearing, as we've heard. He was an elegant man, generally overdressed, so much so that I subconsciously always knew that I had to measure up to a standard when I had a lunch date with him. And he was a proud Brit in a Royal Navy sort of way. Widely read, self-assertive, pragmatic, stoic, private, conservative and energetically risk-averse. Many times I tried to get Peter interested in the stock market, he wouldn't have a bar of it. He was also loyal, discreet, non-judgmental and genuinely and actively supportive of friends. He was a man who placed importance on keeping in touch. He was a caring guy, as all of you would know, certainly those that are in Rotary would know. An exemplary cocktail of personal traits, I think you'll agree. Above all, he was immensely proud of his family. His children, Claire, Richard and Helene, his grandchildren, Jared, Jordan, Alice, Ruby, Lily and Rosie. And I know this because, while an intensely private man, father and grandfather, we occasionally chatted about each of you over the odd bottle of red. He thought the world of you. Carol and her family, his daughter-in-law and son-in-law, all featured prominently in Peter's thinking and brought great joy to his life. He was besotted with Jane. And he was committed to Jane with every ounce of his being. He regularly referred to them as Team Mote. And that's precisely what it was. One had only to try and have a phone call with Peter where Jane was in the room or within earshot, and you quickly realised you were having a conversation with both of them. They, in life, inseparable. Despite the undoubted high standard of care Peter had been receiving in hospital, he was determined to be at home with Jane and the family, surrounded by those things that delineated him and his life. His determination demonstrated what mattered most to him. It also demonstrated courage and confidence in the care and love he knew he would receive at home from his family. His confidence could not have been better placed. Each of us will have shared times with Peter that I'm sure will live long in our memories. I shall miss extended lunches, not too many, but there were a few extended lunches, over the odd glass. Invariably after the main, I would say to Peter, "Peter, do you feel like a dessert?" And just as invariably, the response would come back, "Absolutely." I shall miss the thrust and parry of stimulating discussion, his fondness for forcefully throwing in provocative political opinions, almost daring me to take an opposing view. Peter breaking into guffaws after making a remark he thought was really, really humorous. His obsession with punctuality. And true to form, if you'll just excuse a little bit of black humour, he was here on time today. But of course, way too early for all of us who love him. His encyclopedic memory and for historical facts and quotations, and his penchant for trotting them out in general discussion. His love of sports coats with colourful pockets, and of course bow ties, and of course red socks. His love of boats and interest in fine cars, and I notice there's an S-type Jaguar over there on the table, which I remember very well from London. Food, wine, music and books, indeed his love of life. It is said that life is a series of encounters where others walk with us for a time, share themselves with us and then depart. My 20-year walk with Peter, commencing as it did in London, has brought so much pleasure and richness to me. The legacies, and I'm sure for all of us, Peter, Dad, Grandad, has left each of us with legacies in the form of memories that will sustain us. I'm truthfully and truly thankful for mine, and I'm sure each of you for yours. Thank you, dear friend. Rest in peace. And as Peter would say, au revoir and bonne chance, mon ami.
Thank you, Michael. That was so beautifully written and beautifully presented. Thank you so much. That was just beautiful. And now, to complete our tributes to Peter, I'm going to ask his son Richard to come up and say a few words.
I've been roped into it as well. So, okay. I'm sure Dad would have a little chuckle as he knew I hated public speaking. He was such a confident speaker himself. He would always tell me, push yourself outside your comfort zone. So here goes, Dad. We were all born in England. Well, one of my earliest memories is of moving to a new family home where Dad was complaining persistently about the bloody ugly caravan in the neighbour's driveway. So I decided to take myself next door and tell him all about it. Fortunately, we did still become close family friends, but Dad was never backwards in saying he disliked something. One day, Dad came home and announced we were moving to Australia. I remember questioning this decision. Why would he move us to a country with so many deadly animals? However, off we went, my mind swayed by the promise of warm weather. I was 8, Richard was 5, Helen was 10 months. My only requirement was a swimming pool. which Dad had to install before the first summer. We quickly settled into Australian lifestyle. While Dad worked and travelled the world, Dad was never what you would call an animal lover, unlike the rest of us. However, he tolerated multiple dogs, mice, the odd bird, chicken, duck, lizard. We also talked him into adopting a stray cat that had 3 kittens under the house a few weeks later. We had a further Save the Kitten campaign to keep one of the kittens, who Dad ended up caring for after we all moved out. Dad always had a love of classical music, the louder the better, frequently embarrassing us in front of friends and playing it loudly when transporting us. It has taken me a long time to recover, and until now I've just started to appreciate the classics.
Dad would have loved this scene that we can see here. So many people he loved come together before the wonderful backdrop of this place that was very special to him. It is a sad occasion that brings us here, but it is also a celebration of Dad's extraordinary life, including, if I may say, his inexplicable love of bow ties, something I haven't inherited, although this one is growing on me slowly. Dad always liked a good celebration. He was well known for his lavish dinner parties, where he would set the table as though royalty were attending. And his super spicy Indian curries were also famous, perhaps infamous for some people, as they usually had everyone crying. But then again, his motto was, if X amount is good, then double that must be twice as good. And it's not just with the curry powder that Dad was very generous. As children, we loved doing the shopping with Dad because he would always buy the good biscuits and everything else we wanted. He had a talent for finding efficient solutions to problems. When he was asked to pack our school lunches, we would find in his brown paper bags, instead of the usual sandwiches, a $5 note. Job done. Dad, as we heard earlier, was an organizer. He was an orderly person. And that held him in good stead for his career. It was also something that spilled over to our family life. He would obsessively tidy away our toys, often before we would actually finish playing with them. And in Dad's world, just as it was simply not possible to be overdressed for any occasion, it was also just not possible to be overly punctual. And an enduring and lasting memory for many of us will be of Dad waiting by the front door, shoes on, car keys in hand, ready to go, long before anyone else was ready. He was a very hard worker. He believed in hard work, and that meant he was often away on business. But he was working for his family. And if anyone ever asked for help or needed rescuing in the middle of the night, especially Claire and Denise during their teenage years, he would always be there. He fought very hard against his disease. When it came time to let go, however, he passed in the way he wanted to. At home, with his family, listening to his favorite music. Right to the end, he lived his life the way he wanted to. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Claire and Richard. That was a lovely insight into Dad. I love the bit about dressing for the occasion. My wife often says to me, "Oh, I'm overdressed," and I often say, "Set the standard, don't follow it." I'm sure Peter had the same. So now we come to a beautiful visual tribute. This is where we open the Mote family album and dig into some great photos of Peter and the family on many occasions. So, with your permission, let's look at that now. The life and times of Peter Mote. So we now come to near the end of our service, sadly. We've been blessed with some beautiful tributes to Peter, some glorious photos and music from the Mote family album, and especially blessed with your presence here today. Your collective grief over Peter's passing turns into collective strength to those all around you. As Martin said at the beginning of our service, we promise never to forget you, and we will honour your memory, and that we will do with every mention of your name, especially amongst our fellow Rotarians. I should declare that I'm also a Rotarian, which I have, and share with Peter and all Rotarians his resolve to put service above self, even imploring you all to consider supporting Mote to Pang in Cambodia, an organisation allowing underprivileged children to embrace their childhood, and details are on your order of service. But what other qualities did Peter possess? As the now famous bow tie suggests, he was a true gentleman. And I have a question for Jane. Did Peter tie his own bow ties, or were they commercial like ours? They were commercial. That's all right, Peter. We forgive you. We forgive you. Only James Bond can do that. You know that. He was a true gentleman, and wearing of red socks and another indication of perhaps a quirky nature. As you heard, he loved his cars. As you heard from Michael, he always had a twinkle in his eye, a calm presence, a sense of humour, and told great stories. He always had quotes for every occasion, and cited Winston Churchill's quotes amongst his favourite. Here's one. I am certainly not one of those who need to be prodded. In fact, if anything, I am the prodder. Broadly speaking, the short words are the best, and the old words best of all. As a Rotarian, he was admired, having been honoured with the Paul Harris Medal, with Sapphire, and over 100 tributes from other Rotarians. His daughter Claire says he was painfully tidy, always punctual. Jane says she always took a book to read as they invariably arrived at anything an hour early. He had, well, like today, he had a warm and charming nature, always kissing the hand of the ladies as a farewell gesture. And from those I've spoken to, he was a really, really nice guy. So now we come to the final chapter of our vision of Peter's life. And I always remember grabbing the Reader's Digest and looking for a special segment called My Favourite Personality. And I'm hoping one day Peter's story will be in that. Here we come to terms with the fact that we have to say farewell to Peter in a manner that is respectful and dignified, allowing us to shed a tear, remember the good times, the exciting times you all spent with Peter over the years. To begin, I'd like to ask Jared to share a few verses with us now. Jared?
I'll be reading a poem called Let Me Go. When I come to the end of the road and the sun has set for me, I want no rights in a gloom-filled room. Why cry for a soul set free? Miss me a little, but not for too long, and not with your head bowed low. Remember the love that we once shared. Miss me, but let me go.
Thank you. As Peter loved quotations and subsequently poetry, I have one last offering to make on behalf of Peter. Now, Jane, you and I have to discuss whether you're going to say it or am I. You're going to do it? Congratulations. I have it written here if you need it. Okay.
We now come, oh, sorry. Yes. This is by Lord Byron, another poem that he had on his wall at home. So late into the night, so we go no more a roving. So late into the night, my love, so late into the night. Though the heart still be as loving and the moon still be light. For the sword outwears its sheath and the soul wears out the rest. And the heart must pause to breathe and love itself have rest. Though the night was made for loving and the day returns too soon, we go no more a roving by the light of the moon.
Thank you, Jane. It takes a brave soul to do that, especially here today. So, thank you, Peter, and thank you for all that you leave behind. A loving family, a vital Rotary Club, a successful career in publishing, a love of cars, and quotations that should live forever like your memory. Tenderly and reverently we commit Peter's mortal remains to be returned to his Maker, knowing that his tasks on this earth have been completed, that his soul is now set free. Peter, we respect your life. We salute your triumphs, and there were many. You are now at peace. We thank you for your love. And we thank you for your friendship. With deep affection, we say goodbye as a friend who's been with us for some time, but now must make the journey home alone. Rest in peace, Peter. We leave this celebration of your life all the better for knowing you and learning from you in the best possible way. I leave the last words of our service once again to Peter with his favourite expression, K-B-O. Keep buggering on. So thank you all on behalf of Jane and the family. I now invite you to share memories of Peter over a cup of tea and refreshments provided by the CWA. That's exciting. So we now have some very interesting exit music. It's called Mad Dogs and Englishmen by Noel Carrot and Travelling Wilburys, End of the Line. So thank you all for travelling here and safe journey wherever you go. Thank you.
time for certain times of day. When all the citizens retire to take their clothes off and to fire, it's one of those rules the great fools obey. Because the sun is far too sultry, and one must avoid its ultraviolet ray. The natives grieve when the white men leave their huts, because they're obviously, definitely nuts. Mad dogs and Englishmen go out in the midday sun. The Japanese don't care to, the Chinese wouldn't dare to. Hindus and Argentines sleep firmly from 12 to 1, but Englishmen deter stars, yes sir. In the Philippines they have lovely screens to protect you from the glare. In the Malay States there are hats-like plates which the Britishers won't wear. At 12 noon the natives swoon and no further work is done, but mad dogs and Englishmen go out in the midday sun. Such a surprise the Eastern eyes to see. But though the English are in heat, they're quite impervious to heat. When the white man rides every naked hides in glee, because the simple creature folk, even impale his soul as totally on the tree. It seems a shame when the English claim the earth, that they give rise to such hilarity and mirth.
Ladies and gentlemen, would you mind standing?
But it's alright. The mountain breeze, well, it's alright. If you live the life you please, well, it's alright. Doing the best you can, well, it's alright. As long as you lend a hand. You can sit around and wait for the lump on the land. Waiting for someone to tell you everything. Sit around and wonder what tomorrow will bring. Maybe that will bring. But it's alright, even if they say you're wrong. Well, it's alright. Sometimes you gotta be strong, but it's alright. As long as you got someone to love you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you can sit down if you like.